Shalom, and welcome back. So the last time we were together, you were reflecting upon you are what you love. You were thinking through your choices and the way you're spending your time, the different activities that fill up your dailiness, to see if you could get some insight into what you really love. Do you really love what you say you love? It's very easy to keep our faith in our head. But Smith's questions brings our faith to the regions of the heart. These are critical questions, and why don't we look at them again? What if, instead of starting from the assumption that human beings are thinking things, we started from the conviction that human beings are first and foremost lovers? What if you're defined not by what you know, but by what you desire? What if the center and seat of the human person is not in the heady regions of the intellect, but in the gut-level regions of the heart? These are such important questions, and they are going to travel with us as we journey through spiritual formation together. Now, I'm wondering, as we turn our attention back to Solomon, how he did in his choices. How did that work out for him? We know that he asked for wisdom, but how did the rest of his life play out? So to look at that, I think the best place to start is to start in Deuteronomy. The Deuteronomy was written by Moses, and it includes the instructions for the ideal king, the way the king was to conduct himself as God's representative on the earth. So let's see. Deuteronomy 17:16 through 19. The king, moreover, must not acquire great numbers of horses for himself, or make the people return to Egypt to get more of them. For the Lord has told you, you are not to go back that way again. He must not take many wives, or his heart will be led astray. He must not accumulate large amounts of silver and gold. So it seems like there are 4 critical things in this description. The first is the king is not to have great number of horses, he's not to return to Egypt, he's not to have many wives, and he's not to have large amounts of silver and gold. So let's see how this worked out for Solomon. In terms of horses, 1 Kings 10:26 tells us that Solomon had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen. I don't know, that sounds like a lot of horses to me. Verse 28 tells us that they were imported from Egypt. That was another place that he was not to go. Chapter 11 tells us that Solomon loved many foreign wives, that he had 700 wives and 300 princesses. That's a lot of wives. And we also know that he had truckloads of gold. Verse 23 tells us that Solomon was greater than all the other kings of the earth in riches. So it seems as though what Solomon really got from his choices was disobedience. Solomon also got disillusionment, because in Ecclesiastes he writes, I said to myself, behold, I have magnified and increased wisdom more than all who were over Jerusalem before me, and my mind has observed a wealth of wisdom and knowledge. And I set my mind to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I realize that this is also striving after wind, because in much wisdom there is much grief, and increasing knowledge results in increasing pain. What advantage has a wise man over a fool? What does a poor man gain by knowing how to conduct himself before others? Whoever loves money never has money enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income. This too is meaningless. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Everything is meaningless. The wisest man in the world determined that everything is meaningless. Solomon also got destruction. 1 Kings 11:3 through 11. Solomon had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines, and his wives led him astray. As Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father had been. He followed Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and Moloch, the detestable god of the Ammonites. So Solomon did evil in the eyes of the Lord. He did not follow the Lord completely, as David his father had done. And eventually, the kingdom was torn from Solomon. So the Lord said to Solomon, "Because you have done this, and you have not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded you, I will surely tear the kingdom from you, and I will give it to your servant. Nevertheless, I will not do it in your days, for the sake of your father David, but I will tear it out of the hand of your son. However, I will not tear away all the kingdom, but I will give one tribe to your son for the sake of my servant David, and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen." So it looks like Solomon began well. His choices were good, and at the very beginning, he was making good choices, that he was following the Lord and that he was sacrificing to the Lord. But unfortunately, as he aged, his trajectory changed and he started to make bad choices. And actually, Solomon crashed pretty hard. It seems that he ended his days far from God, who should have been his ultimate goal. So it seems that Solomon is really commented on by Jeremiah. And let's see what Jeremiah says. "This is what the Lord says. Let not the wise man boast of his wisdom, or the strong man boast of his strength, or the rich man boast of his riches. But let him who boasts boast about this, that he understands and knows me, that I am the Lord who exercises kindness, justice, and righteousness on earth. For in these I delight, declares the Lord." So let's look at a choice of another man. And this man is Moses. This is Exodus 33. "Then Moses said to God, 'If your presence does not go with us, do not send us up from there. How will anyone know that you're pleased with us and with your people unless you go with us? What else will distinguish me and your people from all the other people on the face of the earth?' And the Lord said to Moses, 'I will do the very thing you've asked, because I am pleased with you, and I know you by name.' Then Moses said, 'Show me your glory.'" You see, Solomon asked for wisdom, and he got wisdom. But Moses asked for Yahweh himself. And he got Yahweh, and all the wisdom he ever needed was included in the deal. Moses made a good choice, and he made good choices over the course of his lifetime that created a trajectory that took him straight to the heart of Yahweh. So here's my question. What is your choice? My advice would be to choose wisely, my friends. You only get one life. Shalom.